You've probably walked past cabbage hundreds of times in the produce aisle without giving it much thought. It sits there, often overlooked, while shoppers reach for more glamorous vegetables or the latest superfood trend. But what if this humble, affordable vegetable held remarkable power to transform your health, particularly when it comes to managing blood sugar levels and protecting against some of the most serious chronic conditions we face today? Raw cabbage, especially when consumed in its whole, uncooked form, offers a surprisingly powerful approach to blood sugar regulation that many people simply don't know about. The key lies not just in eating cabbage, but in how you eat it. Taking large, substantial pieces and chewing them slowly for at least 10 minutes activates a cascade of enzymatic processes that can fundamentally change how your body processes glucose. This isn't just folk wisdom or anecdotal evidence. The science behind cabbage's effects on blood sugar involves complex interactions between plant enzymes, fiber structures, and bioactive compounds that work together in ways that cooking can destroy. When you bite into a fresh piece of raw cabbage and begin the slow, deliberate process of chewing, you're doing something remarkable for your metabolism. The mechanical action of chewing breaks down the plant's cell walls, releasing enzymes that remain active and potent because they haven't been denatured by heat. These enzymes, particularly myrosinase, interact with compounds called glucosinolates that are abundant in cruciferous vegetables like cabbage. This interaction produces isothiocyanates, which have been shown in research to influence glucose metabolism and insulin sensitivity in profound ways. The extended chewing time isn't just about breaking down the food for easier digestion. When you commit to chewing each portion of raw cabbage for a full 10 minutes, you're giving these enzymes maximum opportunity to do their work while the food is still in your mouth, and as it begins its journey through your digestive system. The longer contact time means more complete enzymatic conversion of glucosinolates into their active forms. And these compounds then interact with your digestive processes in ways that can actually slow down and moderate the absorption of sugars from your entire meal, not just from the cabbage itself. This effect on sugar absorption represents a natural food-based approach to one of the most challenging aspects of blood sugar management. Many people struggle with post-meal glucose spikes, where blood sugar levels shoot up rapidly after eating, putting stress on the pancreas and contributing to insulin resistance over time. By incorporating raw cabbage eaten in the manner described, you create a kind of metabolic buffer. The fiber content physically slows gastric emptying, while the bioactive compounds influence how quickly glucose passes through the intestinal wall into your bloodstream. What makes this approach particularly compelling is its accessibility. Cabbage is inexpensive, available year-round in most places, and requires no special preparation beyond washing. You don't need expensive supplements, complicated recipes, or hard-to-find ingredients. You simply need to shift your perspective on this common vegetable and commit to a different way of consuming it. The practice of taking a large wedge of cabbage with your meal and chewing it slowly might seem unusual at first, but the metabolic benefits can be substantial enough to make this small ritual worthwhile. The connection between raw cabbage consumption and diabetes risk reduction extends beyond immediate blood sugar control. Type 2 diabetes develops over years through a progressive decline in insulin sensitivity and pancreatic function. Every time your blood sugar spikes dramatically, every instance of sustained high glucose levels contributes to this progression. The cumulative effect of chronic blood sugar dysregulation leads to damaged blood vessels, stressed organs, and the eventual diagnosis that millions of people face each year. Interrupting this progression with dietary interventions that actually work represents a powerful form of prevention. Research into cruciferous vegetables has revealed that regular consumption is associated with significantly lower rates of type 2 diabetes. While cooked cabbage certainly offers benefits, the raw form preserves heat-sensitive compounds and enzymes that are largely destroyed by cooking. Some studies have found that people who regularly consume raw cruciferous vegetables show better glucose tolerance and lower fasting insulin levels compared to those who don't. The specific practice of extended chewing amplifies these benefits by ensuring maximum enzymatic activity and complete breakdown of beneficial compounds. Understanding how cabbage works at a cellular level makes its effects less mysterious and more actionable. Cabbage contains several types of fiber, including both soluble and insoluble forms. The soluble fiber forms a gel-like substance in your digestive tract that literally slows the movement of food through your system. This mechanical slowing means glucose is released more gradually into your bloodstream rather than flooding in all at once. The insoluble fiber adds bulk and helps maintain healthy transit time through your intestines, which indirectly supports better blood sugar control by promoting overall digestive health. Beyond fiber, cabbage contains compounds called polyphenols, which act as antioxidants and also appear to influence glucose metabolism directly. These polyphenols can affect the activity of certain enzymes involved in breaking down carbohydrates. By moderating these enzymes, the compounds in cabbage can reduce the speed at which complex carbohydrates are converted to simple sugars. Again, this effect is most pronounced when the cabbage is raw, as cooking degrades many of these delicate polyphenolic compounds. The liver plays a central role in blood sugar regulation, and this is where cabbage demonstrates another layer of its metabolic benefits. Your liver acts as a glucose reservoir and regulator, storing excess sugar as glycogen when levels are high and releasing it when levels drop. The liver also processes fats, proteins, and countless other substances, making it one of your body's most metabolically active organs. When liver function becomes compromised through fatty liver disease, inflammation, or other damage, blood sugar regulation suffers as a consequence. Raw cabbage supports liver health through multiple mechanisms. The glucosinolates and their breakdown products activate detoxification pathways in liver cells. Your liver relies on two phases of detoxification to process and eliminate toxins, medications, hormones, and metabolic waste products. Phase 1, enzymes transform these substances into intermediate forms, while Phase 2 enzymes convert them into water-soluble compounds that can be excreted. The isothiocyanates from raw cabbage have been shown to upregulate both phases of this detoxification system, essentially helping your liver work more efficiently. This enhanced liver function has direct implications for blood sugar control. A healthy, efficiently functioning liver is better able to manage glucose storage and release. It responds more appropriately to insulin signals and maintains steadier blood sugar levels throughout the day and night. When your liver becomes sluggish or fatty, which happens increasingly commonly in our modern environment, it loses this regulatory precision. Blood sugar becomes more erratic, insulin resistance develops more easily, and the path toward diabetes becomes steeper. The specific practice of chewing raw cabbage extensively provides benefits that quick consumption simply can't match. Saliva contains enzymes that begin the digestive process, and extended chewing means these enzymes have maximum time to work on the cabbage. More importantly, the physical act of chewing for an extended period sends signals to your brain that help regulate satiety and metabolic responses. Your body begins preparing for digestion, secreting appropriate enzymes and hormones, priming your system to handle the incoming food efficiently. There's also a mindfulness component that shouldn't be overlooked. Taking 10 minutes to chew a portion of cabbage forces you to slow down during a meal. In our rushed modern eating culture, most people consume food far too quickly, barely chewing before swallowing. This rapid eating contributes to overeating, poor digestion, and blood sugar spikes. When you commit to thoroughly chewing raw cabbage, you're automatically creating a pause in your meal, a moment of slower, more deliberate consumption that can positively affect how you eat everything else on your plate. The anti-cancer properties of raw cabbage represent another compelling reason to make this vegetable a regular part of your diet. The same glucosinolates and isothiocyanates that support blood sugar control and liver health also demonstrate powerful effects against cancer development. Research has consistently shown that people who consume higher amounts of cruciferous vegetables, particularly raw forms, have lower rates of several types of cancer. The mechanisms behind this protection involve multiple pathways, from direct toxic effects on cancer cells to enhancement of the body's own tumor suppression systems. One particularly well-studied compound found in cabbage is sulforaphane, an isothiocyanate that forms when glucoraphanin encounters the myrosinase enzyme during chewing. Sulforaphane has been shown in laboratory studies to induce apoptosis or programmed cell death in cancer cells, while leaving healthy cells relatively unaffected. It also inhibits the formation of new blood vessels that tumors need to grow, a process called angiogenesis. Additionally, sulforaphane appears to enhance the expression of tumor suppressor genes while suppressing oncogenes, the genes that promote cancer development. The cancer protective effects extend across numerous cancer types. Studies have linked regular consumption of cruciferous vegetables with reduced risk of colorectal cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, lung cancer, and others. While no single food can prevent cancer entirely, the evidence for cabbage and its cruciferous relatives is strong enough that major cancer research organizations recommend including these vegetables regularly in your diet. The catch, once again, is that cooking reduces or eliminates many of these protective compounds. Boiling cabbage, for instance, can leach away glucosinolates into the cooking water, while high heat can destroy the myrosinase enzyme needed to convert them into active forms. Raw cabbage consumption addresses this problem directly. By eating the vegetable uncooked, you preserve the full spectrum of its anti-cancer compounds. By chewing it extensively, you ensure complete enzymatic conversion and maximum bioavailability of sulforaphane and related compounds. The large pieces, rather than finely shredded or juiced forms, maintain the structural integrity of the plant tissue, which appears to matter for optimal enzyme function. The whole approach works synergistically to deliver cancer-protective benefits in their most potent form. Bone health might not be the first thing that comes to mind when thinking about cabbage, but this vegetable offers significant benefits for your skeletal system. Cabbage is rich in vitamin K, a nutrient that plays a critical role in bone metabolism. Vitamin K activates proteins that bind calcium to bone tissue, essentially helping your bones capture and retain the calcium they need to stay strong. Without adequate vitamin K, calcium can't be properly incorporated into bone matrix, regardless of how much calcium you consume. 1 cup of raw cabbage provides a substantial amount of vitamin K, and because this vitamin is fat-soluble, it's absorbed well when you consume cabbage as part of a meal containing some healthy fats. The connection to blood sugar regulation ties in here as well, because chronic high blood sugar actually damages bone health through several mechanisms. Advanced glycation end products, which form when proteins or fats combine with excess glucose, accumulate in bone tissue and compromise its strength and flexibility. Inflammation associated with poor blood sugar control also increases bone breakdown. By helping to regulate blood sugar through the mechanisms already discussed, a raw cabbage protects bone health indirectly, while also providing direct nutritional support through vitamin K and other minerals. Cabbage contains meaningful amounts of calcium itself, along with magnesium, potassium, and other minerals important for bone density. While it's not as concentrated a calcium source as dairy products, the calcium from cabbage is highly bioavailable and comes packaged with other compounds that support its absorption and utilization. The vitamin C in cabbage, which is preserved when you eat it raw, is necessary for collagen formation, and collagen provides the flexible matrix within bones that prevents brittleness. Strong bones need both mineral density and collagen integrity, and raw cabbage supports both. The antioxidant capacity of cabbage deserves particular attention because oxidative stress underlies so many chronic diseases, including diabetes, cancer, heart disease, and neurodegenerative conditions. Antioxidants are molecules that neutralize free radicals, unstable compounds that damage cells, proteins, and DNA. Your body produces free radicals as normal byproducts of metabolism, and you're also exposed to them through environmental pollutants, radiation, and other sources. When free radical production exceeds your body's antioxidant defenses, oxidative stress results, accelerating aging and disease processes. Raw cabbage provides a diverse array of antioxidants working through different mechanisms. Vitamin C acts as a water-soluble antioxidant, protecting cellular fluids and the spaces between cells. Polyphenols like quercetin and chiempherol neutralize free radicals and also upregulate your body's own antioxidant enzyme systems, essentially teaching your cells to better protect themselves. The red and purple varieties of cabbage contain anthocyanins, pigment compounds with exceptionally strong antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. All these compounds work together in what scientists call a synergistic effect, where the combined impact exceeds what any single compound could achieve alone. This antioxidant protection directly relates to diabetes prevention and management. Oxidative stress damages the insulin-producing beta cells in your pancreas, gradually reducing your capacity to make insulin. It also damages insulin receptors on cell surfaces, contributing to insulin resistance. And the blood vessels throughout your body are particularly vulnerable to oxidative damage when glucose levels run high, as excess glucose generates free radicals through several biochemical pathways. By providing robust antioxidant protection, raw cabbage helps shield your cells, tissues, and organs from this glucose-related oxidative damage. The anti-inflammatory effects of raw cabbage compounds work hand in hand with their antioxidant properties. Chronic low-grade inflammation has been identified as a key driver of insulin resistance and metabolic dysfunction. Fat tissue, particularly visceral fat around your organs, secretes inflammatory molecules that interfere with insulin signaling. The liver responds to inflammation by becoming insulin resistant. Even your brain becomes inflamed in metabolic disease, affecting appetite regulation and metabolic control. Cabbage contains compounds that actively counter inflammation through multiple pathways. Some inhibit the production of pro-inflammatory molecules called cytokines. Others block the activation of inflammatory signaling pathways like NF-kappa B, a master switch that turns on numerous inflammatory genes. The glucosinolate breakdown products have been shown to reduce markers of systemic inflammation in human studies. Regular consumption of raw, cruciferous vegetables is associated with lower levels of C-reactive protein and other inflammatory markers in the blood. Reducing inflammation supports blood sugar control, but it also protects against the complications of diabetes. The damage to blood vessels, nerves, kidneys, and eyes that occurs in poorly controlled diabetes is largely mediated by inflammation. By fighting inflammation at its source, raw cabbage consumption may help prevent or slow these complications even beyond its effects on blood sugar itself. This represents a whole-body protective effect that extends well beyond any single organ system or disease process. The practical question becomes how to actually incorporate this practice into daily life. Taking a large wedge of raw cabbage and chewing it for 10 minutes sounds straightforward, but it represents a significant departure from how most people eat. The key is finding an approach that feels sustainable rather than like a chore. Some people find it works well to begin their meal with the cabbage, creating a ritual that becomes automatic over time. Others prefer to alternate bites of cabbage with other foods, extending the chewing throughout the meal. The specific timing matters less than consistently achieving that extended chewing time and consuming the cabbage raw. Choosing your cabbage matters too. Green cabbage is the most common variety and offers excellent benefits, but red or purple cabbage contains higher levels of certain antioxidants due to its anthocyanin content. Savoy cabbage, with its crinkled leaves, provides good nutritional value and a slightly different texture. Napa cabbage is milder and more tender, which some people find more palatable raw. All varieties offer the core benefits of glucosinolates, fiber, and other beneficial compounds, so personal preference can guide your choice. Preparation is minimal but important. Wash the cabbage thoroughly under running water, especially if it's not organic, as cabbage can carry pesticide residues on its outer leaves. Remove any damaged or wilted outer leaves, then simply cut a wedge or take several large leaves, keeping the pieces substantial rather than finely chopping them. The goal is to have something that requires significant chewing, that maintains its structure as you work through it. Some people find it helpful to add a small amount of healthy fat like olive oil, which can make the cabbage more palatable and also enhances absorption of fat-soluble nutrients. The taste of raw cabbage can be an adjustment if you're not accustomed to it. Fresh cabbage has a crisp, slightly sweet, mildly peppery flavor that's quite different from the sulfurous taste of overcooked cabbage that many people dislike. That unpleasant smell and taste associated with cooked cabbage comes from sulfur compounds that break down during prolonged cooking. Raw cabbage doesn't have that issue. Still, the flavor is distinctive, and the texture is crunchy and fibrous. Some people find it helps to pair the cabbage with complementary flavors in their meal, or to add a sprinkle of sea salt, lemon juice, or apple cider vinegar to make it more appealing. One approach that seems to work for many beginners is to start with small amounts and gradually increase the portion size over time. Someone new to raw cabbage might begin with a single leaf, chewed slowly and mindfully, and then work their way up to a larger serving as their palate adjusts. The key is to make it a regular habit rather than an occasional experiment. When eaten consistently, the body seems to adapt to the texture and flavor, and what initially felt challenging often becomes routine. The act of chewing slowly for an extended period is perhaps the most unusual aspect of this practice, yet it appears to be one of the most important. When you take a substantial piece of raw cabbage and chew it methodically for 10 minutes or longer, several things happen simultaneously. The physical breakdown of the plant material releases more of the active compounds contained within the cell walls. The extended contact with saliva allows digestive enzymes in the mouth to begin their work earlier than they would with food that's quickly swallowed. And perhaps most significantly, the slower pace of eating gives your body time to register what you're consuming, which can influence how the nutrients are processed downstream. And this extended chewing period also changes the relationship between eating and satisfaction. In our fast-paced eating culture, meals are often consumed quickly, sometimes while distracted by screens or other activities. Taking 10 minutes to chew a single portion of food forces a kind of mindfulness that many people find surprisingly calming. It becomes a meditation of sorts, a deliberate pause in the day. Some practitioners report that this aspect of the practice has benefits that extend beyond the nutritional, creating a moment of stillness and presence that affects their stress levels and overall sense of well-being. The connection between raw cabbage consumption and liver health deserves particular attention, especially for those concerned about metabolic wellness. The liver plays a central role in blood sugar regulation, storing glucose as glycogen when levels are high and releasing it back into the bloodstream when levels drop. When the liver is functioning optimally, this process works smoothly. But when the liver is overtaxed or not functioning well, blood sugar control can suffer. Raw cabbage contains several compounds that appear to support liver function. The sulfur-containing compounds, including those responsible for the vegetable's distinctive smell when cooked, seem to help the liver with its detoxification processes when consumed raw. The organ is constantly working to filter out toxins, process medications, and manage waste products from normal metabolism. Supporting this function through nutrition makes sense as a preventive strategy. Beyond the sulfur compounds, raw cabbage provides glutamine, an amino acid that plays a role in maintaining the health of the intestinal lining. While glutamine is perhaps better known for its gut health benefits, the connection between gut health and metabolic health is becoming increasingly clear. A healthy intestinal barrier helps regulate what enters the bloodstream from the digestive tract, which in turn affects inflammation levels throughout the body. Chronic low-grade inflammation has been linked to insulin resistance and poor blood sugar control, so supporting gut integrity through foods like raw cabbage may have indirect benefits for glucose metabolism. The anti-cancer properties attributed to raw cabbage, particularly related to cruciferous vegetables in general, have been the subject of considerable research interest. Cruciferous vegetables contain glucosinolates, which are sulfur-containing compounds that break down into various bioactive substances when the plant material is chewed or chopped. Among these breakdown products are isothiocyanates and indoles, which have been studied for their potential protective effects. Laboratory research has shown that these compounds can affect cancer cell behavior in various ways, including influencing how quickly cancer cells multiply and triggering processes that lead to cancer cell death. Epidemiological studies, which look at patterns in human populations, have found associations between higher consumption of cruciferous vegetables and lower rates of certain cancers, particularly those affecting the digestive system and lungs. However, an important caveat emerges here regarding the raw versus cooked distinction. Some research suggests that cooking cruciferous vegetables can significantly reduce the availability of certain beneficial compounds. Heat can destroy myrosinase, an enzyme present in raw cruciferous vegetables that's necessary for converting glucosinolates into their active forms. When myrosinase is destroyed by cooking, the body must rely on bacteria in the gut to perform this conversion, and this process appears to be less efficient. This is one reason why advocates of raw cabbage consumption emphasize the importance of eating it uncooked. The presence of active myrosinase in raw cabbage means that the beneficial compounds are generated more readily during chewing and digestion. That said, some nutrients in vegetables become more bioavailable when cooked, so the raw versus cooked debate isn't entirely one-sided. Cooking can break down tough plant cell walls, making certain nutrients easier to absorb. With cabbage specifically, though, the argument for consuming it raw seems particularly strong when the goal is to maximize the compounds that support blood sugar regulation and cancer prevention. The enzyme activity that occurs during extended chewing of raw cabbage appears to be a key mechanism that's lost when the vegetable is cooked. Bone health represents another area where cabbage consumption may offer benefits, though this connection might seem less intuitive than the blood sugar effects. Cabbage is a good source of vitamin K, a nutrient that plays a critical role in bone metabolism. Vitamin K is necessary for the proper function of osteocalcin, a protein that helps bind calcium to the bone matrix. Without adequate vitamin K, calcium might not be effectively incorporated into bone tissue, regardless of how much calcium is consumed. For people concerned about osteoporosis or bone density, getting enough vitamin K through food sources like cabbage can be part of a comprehensive approach to skeletal health. The vitamin K in cabbage is primarily in the form of vitamin K1, also called phylloquinone, which is the form found in green plants. While vitamin K2, found in fermented foods and animal products, has received more attention recently for its role in directing calcium to bones rather than soft tissues, vitamin K1 still plays an important role in overall vitamin K status. The body can convert some vitamin K1 to vitamin K2, though the efficiency of this conversion varies among individuals. Eating raw cabbage provides a substantial dose of vitamin K1 that contributes to overall vitamin K nutrition. Interestingly, fermented cabbage, such as sauerkraut or kimchi, provides some vitamin K2 in addition to vitamin K1 because the fermentation process involves bacteria that produce this form of the vitamin. While fermented cabbage isn't raw in the strictest sense, since it has undergone bacterial transformation, it does retain many of the beneficial properties of raw cabbage while adding the advantages of fermentation, including probiotics and increased vitamin K2 content. Some people incorporate both raw cabbage and fermented cabbage into their diets to capture different benefits. The mineral content of cabbage also contributes to its health-supporting properties. While cabbage isn't particularly high in any single mineral, it provides a range of minerals in moderate amounts, including calcium, magnesium, and potassium. These minerals work together in various physiological processes, including those related to blood pressure regulation and cardiovascular health. The relationship between blood sugar control and cardiovascular health is well established, since both conditions share common underlying factors like inflammation and oxidative stress. Anything that supports one aspect of metabolic health often supports the others as well. Potassium, in particular, plays a role in maintaining healthy blood pressure levels. Since people with diabetes or prediabetes are at increased risk for cardiovascular complications, dietary sources of potassium like cabbage can be a helpful addition to an overall strategy for heart health. So the magnesium in cabbage supports hundreds of enzymatic reactions in the body, including some involved in glucose metabolism and insulin function. While you'd need to eat a lot of cabbage to get huge amounts of these minerals, every bit contributes to overall nutritional status, especially when cabbage consumption is part of a broader pattern of vegetable-rich eating. When considering how to incorporate raw cabbage into daily eating patterns, timing becomes a practical consideration. Some advocates suggest eating cabbage at specific times relative to meals, either before eating other foods or between meals as a snack. The idea behind eating cabbage before a meal is that it may help slow the absorption of sugars and starches from the foods that follow. If the active compounds in cabbage do indeed inhibit certain digestive enzymes as suggested, then consuming cabbage first could theoretically reduce the speed at which carbohydrates are broken down and absorbed from the rest of the meal. This slower absorption would lead to a more gradual rise in blood sugar rather than a sharp spike. Others prefer to eat raw cabbage as a standalone snack between meals. This approach might help keep blood sugar levels more stable throughout the day by providing fiber and nutrients without adding significant calories or sugar. Since cabbage is low in both calories and carbohydrates, it can be eaten in fairly large quantities without contributing much to overall energy intake. For people trying to manage their weight alongside blood sugar concerns, and this property makes cabbage particularly appealing as a filling, nutrient-dense food. Some people find that eating raw cabbage first thing in the morning, perhaps while preparing breakfast, helps them start the day with a beneficial practice. This timing might be especially relevant for people concerned about fasting blood sugar levels, which are often measured first thing in the morning as an indicator of glucose control. While there isn't strong research specifically on the timing of cabbage consumption relative to blood sugar effects, the general principle of spreading vegetable intake throughout the day makes sense from a nutritional standpoint. The question of portion size is less precisely defined than one might hope. Unlike a medication with a specific dose, there's no standardized amount of raw cabbage that's been established as optimal for blood sugar control. Anecdotal reports and traditional practices suggest quantities ranging from a few leaves to a quarter of a head, or even more, consumed in one sitting and chewed extensively. The emphasis on extended chewing suggests that the portion should be substantial enough to require several minutes of chewing, but not so large that it becomes an unrealistic burden. A practical starting point for many people seems to be roughly the equivalent of 2 to 4 large cabbage leaves, torn into manageable pieces and chewed slowly over the course of 10 minutes or longer. This amount provides a decent quantity of fiber and active compounds without being overwhelming. As people become accustomed to the practice, they might increase the amount based on their tolerance and any effects they notice on their blood sugar levels or overall well-being. Self-monitoring becomes important here, especially for people who are tracking their blood glucose numbers. Keeping a simple log of what was eaten and when, alongside blood sugar readings, can help identify patterns and determine whether the cabbage consumption is having the desired effect. For people with diabetes who are taking medication to lower blood sugar, there's an important safety consideration to keep in mind. If raw cabbage does indeed help lower blood sugar levels through its various mechanisms, there's a theoretical possibility that combining cabbage consumption with blood sugar lowering medications could lead to hypoglycemia or blood sugar that drops too low. While this might sound like good news, hypoglycemia can actually be dangerous, causing symptoms like shakiness, confusion, rapid heartbeat, and in severe cases, loss of consciousness. Anyone taking diabetes medication should work with their healthcare provider when making significant dietary changes, including adding large amounts of raw cabbage to their routine. Medication dosages might need to be adjusted as dietary habits change. This precaution doesn't mean that people taking diabetes medication should avoid raw cabbage, but rather that they should approach the practice thoughtfully and monitor their blood sugar levels carefully, especially when first starting. The goal is to find a balance where diet and medication work together to maintain healthy blood sugar levels without causing problematic drops. In some cases, people might find that improved dietary habits allow them to reduce their medication needs over time. But these decisions should always be made in consultation with a knowledgeable healthcare provider. The antioxidant properties of raw cabbage contribute to its potential as a health-promoting food beyond its direct effects on blood sugar. Antioxidants are substances that help neutralize free radicals, which are unstable molecules that can damage cells and contribute to aging and disease development. The body produces free radicals as a normal byproduct of metabolism, and we're also exposed to them from environmental sources like pollution, cigarette smoke, and even sunlight. While the body has its own antioxidant defense systems, dietary antioxidants from foods like cabbage can support these natural defenses. Cabbage contains several types of antioxidants, including vitamin C, which is present in fairly high amounts, and various polyphenols and flavonoids. These compounds work through different mechanisms to protect cells from oxidative damage. Vitamin C, for example, can donate electrons to neutralize free radicals, while polyphenols can chelate metal ions that would otherwise participate in reactions that generate harmful oxidative species. The combination of different antioxidants working together may be more effective than any single compound in isolation, which is one reason why whole foods like cabbage might offer advantages over isolated supplements. The relationship between oxidative stress and metabolic health is becoming increasingly clear. High blood sugar levels themselves can promote oxidative stress, creating a cycle where poor glucose control leads to cellular damage, which in turn can impair the function of cells involved in insulin production and glucose uptake. Breaking this cycle requires addressing both the blood sugar levels and the oxidative damage. While antioxidant supplements have had mixed results in research studies, getting antioxidants from whole food sources like vegetables hasn't shown the same disappointing outcomes. This difference might be due to the complex mixture of compounds in whole foods working together in ways that isolated supplements can't replicate. Red and purple cabbage varieties contain anthocyanins, the pigments responsible for their color, which have particularly potent antioxidant properties. Studies have found that red cabbage generally contains higher levels of polyphenols and greater overall antioxidant capacity compared to green cabbage. And this doesn't mean green cabbage lacks value, as it still provides substantial benefits. But for those focused specifically on maximizing antioxidant intake, choosing red cabbage might offer some additional advantages. The anthocyanins in red cabbage have been studied for their potential anti-inflammatory effects as well, which could contribute to overall metabolic health. The anti-inflammatory properties of compounds in cabbage relate closely to both blood sugar control and disease prevention more broadly. Chronic inflammation has been implicated in the development of numerous health conditions, including type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and cancer. Unlike acute inflammation, which is the body's natural and necessary response to injury or infection, chronic inflammation is a persistent or low-level activation of the immune system that can damage tissues over time. Diet plays a significant role in either promoting or reducing chronic inflammation, with processed foods, excessive sugar, and unhealthy fats generally being pro-inflammatory, while vegetables, fruits, and other whole foods tend to be anti-inflammatory. The specific compounds in cabbage that contribute to its anti-inflammatory effects include sulforaphane, indole-3-carbinol, and various polyphenols. These substances can modulate inflammatory signaling pathways at the cellular level, reducing the production of inflammatory molecules called cytokines. Some research has shown that people who eat more cruciferous vegetables have lower levels of inflammatory markers in their blood, suggesting that regular consumption of foods like cabbage might help keep inflammation in check. For someone dealing with blood sugar issues, this anti-inflammatory effect could complement the more direct glucose-regulating mechanisms, addressing multiple aspects of metabolic dysfunction simultaneously. The fiber content of raw cabbage deserves deeper examination because fiber's role in blood sugar control is well established through numerous studies. There are two main types of dietary fiber, soluble and insoluble, and both are present in cabbage. Soluble fiber dissolves in water and forms a gel-like substance in the digestive tract. This gel slows the movement of food through the system and can help moderate the absorption of sugars, leading to more gradual rises in blood glucose after eating. An insoluble fiber doesn't dissolve in water, but adds bulk to the digestive contents, promoting regular bowel movements and supporting overall digestive health. The soluble fiber in cabbage, while not as abundant as in some other foods like oats or beans, still contributes to the overall glycemic effect of eating cabbage. When you consume cabbage before or with other foods, the fiber creates a matrix in the stomach and intestines that slows digestion. This physical slowing of digestion means that glucose from carbohydrates in the meal enters the bloodstream more gradually rather than all at once. The result is a gentler, more sustained rise in blood sugar rather than a sharp peak that would trigger a large insulin response. Insoluble fibers' benefits, while perhaps less directly related to immediate blood sugar control, support long-term metabolic health through its effects on gut function and the microbiome. The bacteria living in our intestines feed on fiber that we can't digest ourselves, and in the process, they produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, propionate, and acetate. These fatty acids have been shown to have various beneficial effects, including improving insulin sensitivity, reducing inflammation, and supporting the health of the intestinal lining. A well-fed, diverse gut microbiome appears to be associated with better metabolic health overall, and fiber-rich foods like cabbage help support that microbial community. The connection between cabbage consumption and bone health might not be immediately obvious, but it's actually quite significant. Cabbage is a good source of vitamin K, particularly in the form of vitamin K1, which plays an essential role in bone metabolism. Vitamin K is necessary for the proper function of osteocalcin, a protein that helps bind calcium to the bone matrix, essentially anchoring calcium where it belongs. Without adequate vitamin K, calcium can't be effectively incorporated into bone tissue, regardless of how much calcium you're consuming. This is one reason why eating whole cabbage regularly can contribute to maintaining bone density and reducing the risk of fractures, especially as we age. One medium-sized bowl of chopped raw cabbage can provide a substantial portion of your daily vitamin K needs. When you eat cabbage in large, slowly chewed pieces, you're allowing your body more time to begin the digestive process in the mouth, where enzymes start breaking down the plant cells and making nutrients more accessible. The longer you chew, the more you're mechanically breaking down those tough cell walls, releasing the vitamin K and other nutrients trapped inside. This is particularly important for fat-soluble vitamins like K, which need to be released from the plant matrix to be properly absorbed in your small intestine along with dietary fats. Beyond vitamin K, cabbage contains calcium itself, along with other minerals like magnesium and potassium that support bone health. While it's not as rich in calcium as dairy products, the calcium in cabbage is actually quite bioavailable, meaning your body can absorb and use it relatively efficiently. The combination of vitamin K, calcium, and other bone-supporting minerals makes cabbage a valuable addition to a diet aimed at maintaining skeletal strength, particularly for people who might be at risk for osteoporosis or who want to support their bone health naturally without relying solely on supplements. The sulfur compounds in cabbage also deserve special attention when discussing its health benefits. These compounds, including sulforaphane and indole-3-carbinol, have been extensively studied for their potential anti-cancer properties. Sulforaphane, which is formed when the enzyme myrosinase comes into contact with glucoraphanin during chewing, has been shown in numerous studies to help the body detoxify carcinogens and to inhibit the growth of cancer cells. It does this through several mechanisms, including activating detoxification enzymes in the liver, reducing oxidative stress, and even influencing gene expression in ways that may prevent cancer development. Indole-3-carbinol is another compound that forms when cruciferous vegetables like cabbage are chewed and digested. This substance has been particularly studied in relation to hormone-related cancers such as breast and prostate cancer. It appears to affect how the body metabolizes estrogen, potentially shifting the balance toward less potent forms of the hormone that are less likely to promote cancer growth. While eating cabbage certainly isn't a guarantee against cancer, incorporating it regularly into your diet as part of a varied, plant-rich eating pattern may help reduce your overall risk. The key is consistency and consuming it in a form that maximizes the production of these beneficial compounds, which again points to the importance of eating it raw and chewing it thoroughly. The liver, often called the body's primary detoxification organ, benefits significantly from compounds found in raw cabbage. The liver is responsible for filtering toxins from the blood, metabolizing drugs and alcohol, processing nutrients, and performing hundreds of other essential functions. When the liver is overburdened or not functioning optimally, it can contribute to a range of health problems, including poor blood sugar control, weight gain, fatigue, and increased inflammation. The glucosinolates in cabbage support liver function by enhancing the activity of detoxification enzymes, particularly those involved in phase 2 detoxification, which is the process where toxins are made water-soluble so they can be excreted from the body. Supporting liver health is particularly important for people concerned about blood sugar regulation because the liver plays a central role in glucose metabolism. It stores glucose as glycogen when blood sugar is high and releases it back into the bloodstream when needed. A healthy, well-functioning liver is better able to maintain this balance, preventing both dangerous spikes in blood sugar after meals and dangerous drops between meals. By supporting liver function through regular consumption of raw cabbage, you're indirectly supporting more stable blood sugar levels and better overall metabolic health. The anti-inflammatory properties of cabbage extend beyond what we've already discussed. Chronic inflammation is now recognized as a key driver of many modern diseases, including type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, arthritis, and even depression. The antioxidants in cabbage, including vitamin C, beta-carotene, and various polyphenols, help neutralize free radicals and reduce oxidative stress, which in turn helps lower inflammation throughout the body. The fiber in cabbage also contributes to reduced inflammation by supporting a healthy gut microbiome, which we now know plays a crucial role in regulating immune function and inflammatory responses. When you eat cabbage in its raw, whole form and chew it slowly for an extended period, you're giving your body the best possible chance to extract and utilize all of these anti-inflammatory compounds. The mechanical action of chewing releases nutrients from plant cells, while the extended time spent chewing allows digestive enzymes in your saliva to begin breaking down carbohydrates and initiating other digestive processes. This thorough initial breakdown means that by the time the cabbage reaches your stomach and small intestine, it's already partially digested, making nutrients more bioavailable and easier for your body to absorb. The practice of eating large pieces of cabbage and chewing them slowly might seem unusual at first, especially in a culture where we're often encouraged to eat quickly and on the go. But this mindful approach to eating has benefits that extend beyond nutrition. When you slow down and focus on the act of chewing, you're more likely to notice feelings of fullness and satisfaction, which can help prevent overeating. You're also reducing stress on your digestive system by doing more of the initial work of breaking down food in your mouth, rather than forcing your stomach and intestines to handle large, poorly chewed chunks of food. This slower, more deliberate eating style also has psychological benefits. Taking time to chew your food thoroughly can be a form of mindfulness practice, bringing your attention to the present moment and to the physical sensations of eating. This can help break the pattern of distracted or emotional eating that many people struggle with, particularly those dealing with blood sugar imbalances that can lead to cravings and energy crashes. When you're truly paying attention to what you're eating and how it makes you feel, so you're more likely to make food choices that genuinely serve your health rather than just responding to cravings or habits. The specific recommendation to chew cabbage for at least 10 minutes isn't arbitrary. This extended chewing time ensures maximum contact between the plant material and the enzymes in your saliva, particularly amylase, which begins breaking down carbohydrates. It also ensures thorough mechanical breakdown of the cabbage's fibrous structure, releasing nutrients that might otherwise pass through your digestive system largely intact. Additionally, this extended chewing time gives your brain and digestive system time to communicate, triggering the release of digestive enzymes and preparing your stomach to receive food. This preparation can lead to more efficient digestion and better nutrient absorption overall. And from a practical standpoint, incorporating raw cabbage into your daily routine doesn't have to be complicated or time-consuming. You can simply cut off a wedge from a head of cabbage, perhaps the size of your palm or slightly larger, and eat it before your main meal. Some people prefer to eat it on an empty stomach in the morning, while others find it works better as a pre-meal appetizer. The important thing is to eat it raw, in large pieces that require substantial chewing, and to take your time with it. There's no need for elaborate preparations or special recipes, though you can certainly experiment with adding a simple dressing or seasoning if that makes it more enjoyable for you. Green cabbage is the most commonly available variety and is perfectly adequate for getting all the benefits we've discussed. However, bright red or purple cabbage contains additional anthocyanins, the same antioxidants found in berries and red wine, which give it its distinctive color and provide even more antioxidant power. Napa cabbage and Savoy cabbage have slightly different textures and nutrient profiles, but all varieties of cabbage share the core beneficial compounds that make this vegetable so valuable for health. Varying the types of cabbage you eat can provide a broader spectrum of nutrients and prevent boredom with your routine. The effect of raw cabbage on blood sugar isn't just theoretical or based on isolated compounds studied in laboratories. Many people who have adopted the practice of eating raw cabbage regularly report noticeable improvements in their energy levels, reduced cravings for sweets, and better overall blood sugar control. These anecdotal reports align with what we understand about the mechanisms by which cabbage affects glucose metabolism, though of course individual experiences will vary. Some people notice changes within days, while others find that the benefits become more apparent after several weeks of consistent consumption. It's worth noting that while cabbage is generally very safe and well tolerated, some people may experience digestive discomfort when they first start eating it regularly, particularly in large amounts. This is often due to the high fiber content and the complex carbohydrates that feed gut bacteria. If you experience bloating, gas, or other digestive issues when you start eating raw cabbage, consider starting with smaller amounts and gradually increasing as your digestive system adapts. Most people find that any initial discomfort resolves within a week or two as their gut microbiome adjusts to the increased fiber intake. People taking blood-thinning medications like warfarin need to be aware that the high vitamin K content in cabbage can affect how these medications work. Vitamin K plays a role in blood clotting, and sudden changes in vitamin K intake can interfere with the effectiveness of anticoagulant medications. If you're on such medications, it's not necessarily that you can't eat cabbage, but rather that you should maintain consistent intake and work with your healthcare provider to monitor your medication dosing. Consistency is key, so if you decide to make raw cabbage a regular part of your diet, stick with it rather than eating it sporadically. The broader context of dietary patterns matters as well. While adding raw cabbage to your diet can certainly support better blood sugar control and overall health, it works best as part of a generally healthy eating pattern. A diet high in processed foods, refined sugars, and unhealthy fats will continue to cause problems regardless of how much cabbage you eat. Think of cabbage as one valuable tool in a larger toolkit for health, not as a magic bullet that can counteract other poor dietary choices. The most significant health improvements typically come from comprehensive dietary changes that emphasize whole, minimally processed foods, adequate protein, healthy fats, and plenty of vegetables, with cabbage as one star player in that lineup. Physical activity also plays a crucial role in blood sugar regulation and works synergistically with dietary changes. Regular exercise helps improve insulin sensitivity, meaning your cells become better at taking up glucose from the bloodstream in response to insulin. It also helps build muscle mass, and muscle tissue is one of the primary sites where glucose is stored as glycogen. When you combine regular physical activity with a diet that includes raw cabbage and other blood sugar-supporting foods, you're addressing glucose metabolism from multiple angles, which tends to produce better results than any single intervention alone. Sleep quality and stress management are other important factors that affect blood sugar control. Chronic sleep deprivation and high stress levels both contribute to insulin resistance and poor glucose metabolism through various hormonal mechanisms. Cortisol, the stress hormone, directly affects blood sugar levels and can contribute to insulin resistance when chronically elevated. While eating raw cabbage won't directly address these issues, taking care of your overall health in a comprehensive way creates the best environment for your body to function optimally. The anti-inflammatory and antioxidant compounds in cabbage may help buffer some of the negative effects of stress on the body, but they can't completely compensate for chronic sleep deprivation or unmanaged stress. The potential anti-cancer properties of cabbage deserve further exploration because cancer prevention is such an important aspect of long-term health. While we can't say that any single food prevents cancer, populations that consume higher amounts of cruciferous vegetables like cabbage do tend to have lower rates of certain cancers. And the mechanisms are multifold. First, the antioxidants in cabbage help protect cellular DNA from damage that could lead to mutations and cancer development. Second, the fiber in cabbage helps maintain healthy gut function and may reduce exposure to carcinogens by speeding their transit through the digestive system. Third, the specific compounds like sulforaphane and indole-3 carbinol have been shown to influence cellular processes in ways that may prevent cancer cells from forming or spreading. The importance of eating cabbage raw becomes particularly clear when we consider these anti-cancer compounds. Heat destroys myrosinase, the enzyme that converts glucosinolates into their active forms like sulforaphane, while cooked cabbage still contains beneficial fiber and some vitamins. You're missing out on the full anti-cancer potential if you're not eating at least some of your cabbage raw. If you do prefer cooked cabbage occasionally, one trick is to let it sit for about 10 minutes after chopping before cooking, which allows some conversion to occur before the heat inactivates the enzyme. But for maximum benefit, raw is really the way to go. The sustainability and accessibility of cabbage as a health food also shouldn't be overlooked. Cabbage is generally inexpensive, available year-round in most places, and stores well for extended periods in the refrigerator. Unlike some trendy superfoods that are expensive, hard to find, or have to be shipped long distances, cabbage is a practical, affordable option that most people can easily incorporate into their diets. And it's also relatively easy to grow if you have garden space, and it can be stored through winter months using traditional preservation methods, though again, raw is best for maximizing the health benefits we've been discussing. Cultural traditions around the world have long recognized the health benefits of cabbage, even if the specific mechanisms weren't understood in modern scientific terms. From Korean kimchi to German sauerkraut to Russian borscht, many cultures have incorporated cabbage as a dietary staple. While fermented forms of cabbage like kimchi and sauerkraut have their own unique benefits related to probiotic content, the tradition of eating fresh, raw cabbage has also been maintained in various cultures. These traditional dietary patterns developed over centuries often align remarkably well with what modern science tells us about optimal nutrition. When we think about making dietary changes for health, it's natural to look for complicated solutions or to feel overwhelmed by all the conflicting nutrition advice out there. But sometimes the most powerful interventions are quite simple. Taking a few minutes each day to eat a chunk of raw cabbage, chewing it slowly and mindfully, is about as straightforward as a health practice can get. It requires no special equipment, no expensive supplements, no complicated meal planning, just cabbage, time, and intention. The cumulative effect of this simple practice, maintained consistently over time, can be significant. Better blood sugar control means more stable energy throughout the day, fewer cravings, reduced risk of developing type 2 diabetes, and potentially easier weight management. The antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds support cellular health throughout the body, potentially reducing the risk of various chronic diseases. The fiber supports digestive health and feeds beneficial gut bacteria. The vitamins and minerals contribute to bone health, immune function, and numerous other physiological processes. All of this from one humble, affordable, widely available vegetable. As you consider incorporating raw cabbage into your routine, remember that the goal isn't perfection, but rather consistent progress toward better health. If you miss a day here and there, that's fine. If you need to start with smaller pieces and work your way up to larger portions, that's fine too. And the important thing is to make it a regular practice and to approach it with patience and self-compassion. Health improvements often take time to manifest, and sustainable change comes from building habits gradually rather than making dramatic overnight changes that are hard to maintain. Pay attention to how you feel as you make this dietary addition. Notice whether your energy levels change, whether you experience fewer cravings for sweets, whether your digestion improves. These subjective markers of well-being are valuable feedback that can help motivate you to continue the practice. If you're monitoring your blood sugar levels for medical reasons, you might see objective improvements over time as well. Though you should of course continue working with your healthcare provider and not make changes to any medications without professional guidance. The beauty of eating raw cabbage for health is that it represents a return to simplicity in an era of increasingly complex and processed food systems. It's a reminder that powerful medicine can come from the produce section of the grocery store, not just from the pharmacy. It's a practice that connects us to the earth and to traditional ways of eating that supported human health long before we had the ability to manufacture supplements or develop pharmaceutical interventions for metabolic disease. There's something grounding and satisfying about this simplicity, about taking control of your health through such a basic, elemental practice. As you make raw cabbage part of your daily routine, you might find that it naturally leads to other positive changes in your eating habits. When you start your meal by slowly chewing raw cabbage, you're automatically eating more mindfully. This mindfulness might extend to the rest of your meal, helping you make better food choices and eat more appropriate portions. The fiber from the cabbage will help you feel fuller, potentially reducing your appetite for less healthy foods. The blood sugar stabilizing effects might reduce cravings and make it easier to resist temptations throughout the day. One simple, healthy habit often creates a ripple effect that extends to other areas of life. The practice of eating raw cabbage also offers an opportunity to reconnect with your body and its signals. In our fast-paced modern lives, it's easy to become disconnected from physical sensations and to ignore what our bodies are telling us, blood sugar, rather than a sharp spike. Others prefer to eat raw cabbage as a standalone snack between meals. This approach might help keep blood sugar levels more stable throughout the day by providing fiber and nutrients without adding significant calories or sugar. Since cabbage is low in both calories and carbohydrates, it can be eaten in fairly large quantities without contributing much to overall energy intake. For people trying to manage their weight alongside blood sugar concerns, and this property makes cabbage particularly appealing as a filling, nutrient-dense food. Taking time each day to sit with a piece of raw cabbage, chewing it slowly and deliberately, requires you to be present with your body. You notice the texture, the flavor, the act of chewing and swallowing. This mindful eating practice can help rebuild that crucial connection between mind and body, making you more attuned to hunger and fullness signals, to how different foods make you feel, and to what your body actually needs. Looking at the bigger picture, incorporating raw cabbage into your diet is part of a broader movement toward food as medicine and prevention as the foundation of healthcare. For too long, our healthcare system has focused primarily on treating disease after it develops, rather than preventing it in the first place. While modern medicine is certainly valuable and necessary for acute conditions and serious illnesses, many of the chronic diseases that plague our society are largely preventable through lifestyle factors, with diet being one of the most important. Eating raw cabbage regularly won't prevent every health problem, but it's one concrete step you can take to support your body's natural healing and regulatory systems. The empowerment that comes from taking charge of your health through dietary choices shouldn't be underestimated. When you actively choose to eat foods that support your well-being, you're not passively waiting for disease to strike and then hoping medicine can fix it. You're taking responsibility for your health in a proactive way. This sense of agency can be psychologically powerful, contributing to overall well-being beyond just the physical effects of the food itself. Knowing that you're doing something positive for your health each day can reduce anxiety about future health problems and increase your sense of control over your own life. As we wrap up this exploration of raw cabbage and its remarkable benefits for blood sugar regulation and overall health, it's worth reflecting on how such a simple food can offer so much. The combination of fiber that slows sugar absorption, enzymes that are preserved through eating it raw, compounds that support liver function and reduce inflammation, antioxidants that protect cellular health, and nutrients that support bones and other body systems makes cabbage a true nutritional powerhouse. By the practice of eating it in large pieces and chewing slowly maximizes all of these benefits while also encouraging mindful eating and proper digestion. Making raw cabbage a regular part of your diet is an investment in your long-term health that requires minimal time and money but can pay significant dividends. Whether your primary concern is blood sugar control, reducing diabetes risk, supporting your liver, building stronger bones, or simply improving your overall health and vitality, this humble vegetable has something to offer. The key is consistency and following the simple guidelines: raw, whole, large pieces, and chewing slowly for at least 10 minutes to allow those beneficial enzymes to work their magic. Your health journey is personal and unique, but the fundamental principles of good nutrition apply to everyone. Whole, unprocessed plant foods form the foundation of optimal health, and cabbage stands out as one of the most beneficial and accessible options available. By incorporating it into your daily routine, you're honoring your body's need for real, nutrient-dense food and giving yourself the best possible foundation for health, energy, and well-being for years to come.